Hey guys, B8KD here. Today I'm going to go over a low SP Vigilant build. I'm going to go over my poor man's Ashimmu first, but this is like scraping the bottom of the barrel for skills required to fly a Vigilant. And let's say you don't have any laser skills for the Ashimmu and only Railgun skills. You can turn this into a poor man's Ashimmu. It is pretty effective, and these things are known for their range. But let's just go over our skills really quick. For anything cruiser related, I am 4-4, which is just bottom of the barrel. Spaceship command, I am 4. I'm going on 5, and I'll explain that in a second. Afterburner and micro warp drive, I'm 553 and 453. I'm going to be using a micro warp drive, but this skill is kind of like a universal skill, so all skills that carry over to different ships I like to get first, and then I start to specialize in said ship. I am going shields on this Vigilant. Now, these things are meant to be armor tanks, but everybody knows armor is a little bit underwhelming. You can make this into a very effective armor build, but this is going to be my shield variant of that. You'll see cruiser defense, 4-4. For recommendation, I would always go with capacitor management, and then potentially speed, and then I'd go into DPS, like the medium railgun skills. You want to be able to fight long enough to stay alive, or not drain yourself dry before actually getting some good DPS in. Electronic warfare, of course this could be better, but I'm just 4-4 in this. You can get 5-4 to reduce the stasis web of fire capacitor need. It actually gives a pretty good bonus there. Targeting 4-4, that can always go up, and then my railgun skills are 4-4, or will be 4-4 soon. If we just look at our Vigilant here, now advanced medium railgun operation is pretty necessary. I would probably wait on this. I'd wait on that one, and I would get 5 out of 5 advanced cruiser command here. This ship is known for its web of fire strength, optimal range, and disruptor optimal range. So before anything, I would get 4-4 in all said cruiser skills, and then I would specialize and go like 4-5 in advanced cruiser there, just for that added bonus. I would probably get some more cruiser engineering, and then maybe some micro warp drive, and then I would specialize in the accuracy fall off and damage there. I would probably get that one last, but the advanced cruiser command 100% needs to be advanced 5. That is like the bare minimum for flying this ship. So let's just go over the build now. This one is going to be my poor man's Ashimmu. I went with all C-type rifled railguns, so they have a pretty far range, almost 30 kilometers there. These are more effective with 2 webs. If you go up against a succubus with this build, you can keep them away, but you might not be able to kill them because it's going to be doing such little damage while they're speed tanking. If you had 2 webs, you would be able to combat a succubus, but this one is for fighting like cruisers at range, potentially fighting an Ashimmu, etc. So on our mid slots, we went with a large energy Nosferatu, and you see our power grid is pretty much maxed out, and I put some expensive rigs on this. But if you can't fit this with your power grid, I would go down to like a Mark 5 or Mark 7 large energy Nosferatu. I went with a Predator Warp Disruptor at a 42-kilometer range, so you can barrel towards somebody and hopefully get a web on them before they warp. I think, even though these Predator stasis web fires are pretty expensive, I'm thinking they're necessary on this ship. I coughed up and bought 2 of them for this ship, and I'm going to show you all my different builds in a second. But at a 20-kilometer range without that extra 5 out of 5 web fire, so we'll get 10% on that, which will be around probably 23 kilometers, which is right in the optimal range for this guy. We're going to be orbiting around 20 kilometers once that's fully trained and just banging into people. Now I went with a Mark 7 Infiltrator. Now if you look at our railgun damage, it does not do EM or explosive damage, so I would recommend either one of these guys to eat through a shield, or a Valkyrie. That's pretty good once they get down to armor. It does a little bit more damage, but I like chipping away at their shield with the infiltrators there. Now I would always have backup drones. I would have 2 to 4 of them just in case they keep getting popped in a long drawn out battle. Down below, I went with a C-type medium micro warp drive. Now these, honestly, I don't see much of a difference between this one and like a Mark 5. If you look at the flight velocity adjustment, it's just a hair different, and you have a much larger signature radius adjustment, so things can hit you better. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but if you can fit a C-type medium micro warp drive, you can move down to Federation, Navy, etc. Now I went with a C-type adaptive invulnerability shield. Now this build is not as tanky, so I'm not sure how it will work in a drawn out fight with like an Ashimmu or another Vigilant, but I went with the C-type medium shield booster. I wouldn't go anything lower than that because it just doesn't perform very well. 365 shield per tick. Now power grid restraints, I put 2 Mark 5 capacitor batteries, so if I can get somebody within web range, I can pretty much continuously nuke them until they're out of cap, and then bang them out. Now you can swap this medium capacitor battery out for a lot of different things. You can go with some railgun damage, which will increase your DPS over time. You might not be able to keep your newt active 100% of the time, but you can start draining them down. You know, 5 or 6 ticks of a large newt on a Drake will pretty much cap them out if they're using a large shield booster. So you can swap that out. You can swap into another adaptive to be more tanky, which might be good. The other option is a Mark 7 shield extender. That will give you a lot more shield and pretty much prevent the initial burst of an enemy. If they get within range and you're having trouble getting to your own range, you can pop that and pretty much start kiting them. Now I'm going to refit really quick and I'll come back with my next build. Alright, and this is a pretty typical build. This one, of course, we have our rifled railguns. We have 2 web fires. One of these webs, fully trained with the 5 out of 5 advanced web fire, equals to about a double web of 2 Federation navies, maybe a little bit lesser, so they're extremely strong. But equipping 2 webs, of course, you guys might know, is going to pretty much nullify the enemy's speed, and they will completely shred you. You'll be held in place and you'll get banged out pretty quick. Now for our low slots on this double web build, of course I did the C-type micro warp drive, adaptive, and the large shield booster in this slot. The power grid is 462 required for that, so make sure you look at what power grid you have. This is only really effective if you get the C-type large shield booster. I think it's 100 to 150 less with anything lesser than that. So that's pretty important. Now, if you do the large shield booster, like I was saying earlier, you can swap this out for a shield boost amount, which is pretty good. Now, if you were to do that, I would go with a invulnerability shield, potentially. Having 2 invulnerability shields definitely helps if you do not plug the EM. Now down below I did a Gistem C-type medium capacitor battery. Now this is pretty much needed for the large shield booster, or you'll cap yourself out extremely quick with low SP. You have no Nosferatu or any way to recover, so you want to pop that while your shield booster is popping off. And hopefully with the double web you can get to range from there. Now I might remove my C-type adaptive here, and there's a few options. I don't think I can fit, yeah, I can't fit the Patriot medium shield extender there. I can't fit a Mark 7. Now, I don't think I can fit a shield extender in that spot, but that potentially might be a good option if your power grid allows it. But what I'm probably going to do is a C-type magnetic field stabilizer. This is going to increase my DPS by quite a bit. If you see, we are at 484 damage per second. And when we pop this baby on, we're going to shoot up to 520 DPS, which is pretty good. You'll absolutely shred somebody if you have them within range, double webbed. They're pretty much screwed. Now, you can swap this out for just about anything you can fit. Another capacitor battery, a C-type adaptive if you want to be more tanky over DPS. But let's just go ahead and undock really quick and just see our cold stats. Oop. You know what I'm going to do? I want to take off the capacitor battery and just pop one of these on there.
Undocking.
Okay, we are going to stop in our place here. So if we pop one invulnerability shield and our magnetic field. Now these magnetic fields without the proper skills only pop off for 23 seconds, and these fire every 5 seconds. So you get about 4 hits with the extended DPS, but it goes up to 665, which is pretty good. Tank wise, if you look at our resistances, they're not the best in the world, but 62, 49, 66, 68. So you are kind of banking on your range on this fit. Drakes and stuff, if they have medium rapids, they will be able to hit you from you know, your kiting range with this build. So you want to have some tank. Let's just go ahead and pop our second one. Check out our resistances. We go up to 36k EHP, 74, 65, 77, 78. So you are much more tanky by about 10 to 15% in each. So this will help in like a missile boat fight. But if we see here, we have these going. Let's pop our micro warp drive. Now we only go 1900, almost 2000 meters a second. If you had those 2 velocity rigs, you'd be going about 24 to 26, I think, which is pretty good. Now, if we look at our capacitor management without a capacitor battery, so 70%, yeah, choose about 16% capacitor every tick. So this is not sustainable how it is. Especially with their railguns firing, you are going to cap yourself out extremely quick. In most cases, you're not going to be hardcore pounding down the large shield booster, but you can just see how fast it drains without that capacitor battery. So I think that's pretty necessary if you have that large shield booster on. But I'm not sure if I have any fights ready with the Vigilant, but I'm going to take it out and just do a quick ratting session, probably just some T6s, and see what kind of DPS we can output and such. Now, rig-wise, before we get into all the different builds, I have pretty much I went all out, well, not all out DPS, but 2 DPS and 1 tank I think is good. You can do T1 or T2 rigs in this spot, but I would recommend, especially with the faction cruiser, to go pretty expensive. I went with 1 collision accelerator at 17.5% damage, 1 activation time, so it's going to hit like a truck and hit faster. Now, I did plug my EM shield there, because if I do end up fighting a Ashimmu, they are lasers and they're going to shred my shield. This spot is kind of like your extra spot, so you can fit however you want accordingly. So you can do like your shield boost amount, you can do a shield 30%, you can do a thermal, you can do more DPS, but I think I like to plug that hole. It just kind of rounds everything out on this ship. Now for the other side here, to make a lot of these builds work with low SP, my first one I went with a tier 3 power grid rig. I was able to do my builds with a tier 2, but if you're higher trained than I am, you will yeah, you'll be able to fit more things or better items. Now everybody's going to give me crap for this, but this is my low SP build, and I'm not going to be able to one-on-one many faction ships, so I did stick 2 tier 3 warp core optimizers. This is pretty much going to be my ratting and kind of trap fit, but in these 2 slots on the bottom, of course you can slot whatever you want there. I would potentially go with 2 velocities, either tier 2, potentially tier 3. This will get this ship up to I think 24 to 2600 meters a second, and that will keep up with a lot of ships and be able to get you at range faster. You can do 1 velocity, 1 inertia, you can do a semiconductor memory cell, so whatever you want in those 2 slots. But these warp core optimizers, they are going to keep me alive, and they're going to get me out of situations that I otherwise would have died in. So especially on my alt account, I do not have insurance to cover this baby, so I went safe over you know, flexibility or whatever you want to call it. Now, just to show off the medium snubs, these only have a range of about 10-11 kilometers at max range. These Vigilants are known for their range, so I wouldn't really recommend this unless you're just power ratting and face tanking. Now you can swap a medium afterburner on to rat like this. I would definitely recommend the DPS there, so the magnetic field stabilizer, and in this disruptor slot I would pop a Nosferatu or 2. You can do 2 Nosferatus like this, and you're not cap stable, but the capacitor battery, you want to pulse that with the large shield booster, of course. If we just undock, we're at 664 DPS.
Undocking.
Pop this and that. Let's just check a look. So we aren't going that fast, 856, but that is enough to speed tank larger ships with large guns. DPS wise, we're at 852, and of course that's going to go up with levels. You can probably almost get 1,000 hot on this with the medium snubs, so you will shred somebody, to say the least. The snubs, I think, give you more power grid to work with as well, but I probably wouldn't recommend the snubs on a Vigilant unless you're just strictly ratting and you want that added DPS. Alright, so I'm just in a T6 Anomaly, just a medium T6. If we go ahead and double web and shoot a Vexor, it does fairly decent damage, 900 up to about 1500. With my low tracking speed, I'm having a little bit of trouble hitting frigates and even these Vexors in a sense. 1200. So maybe a tracking computer might be good if your skills are pretty low. So let's go ahead and turn this off. Let's orbit this and turn our micro warp drive on. So when we are at speed, let's see if we can even hit him. Okay, 137, 127. So my tracking speed is in the tank right now. Potentially you have to deactivate your micro warp drive to even hit anything. And let's just go ahead and pop this and see. It's doing some pretty good DPS once we turn the micro warp drive off. It doesn't seem like our tracking speed can really hit anything. Bigger ships like cruisers and up, I think you'll have no problem. But anything small, you're going to have really hard time trying to hit with this low SP build. Now if we look into our skills, one way to increase your tracking speed is, of course, do Snubnose railguns, or it's I think it's Railgun operation. This will increase your tracking speed if you max this one out, which we are going for. When we get into the expert level tracking, it's going to hit a little bit more reliably. So potentially waiting until you're 5/5 advanced there would be best. Let's go ahead and orbit this, double web that, and if we start shooting them, so it hits them when we're kind of orbiting out. But if I turn my micro warp drive, you're not going to hit at all. So we're doing some decent DPS. Let's pop our capacitor battery and our shield booster and see how fast and how long it takes to get our shield back up. So 5, 6, 7, 8 pulses. Not too bad. We're about 100%. That will get us from about 50-40% shield up to max. So we are clearing this anomaly out pretty well without our micro warp drive on. I'm kind of curious now if the afterburner will be any different, but once you have things webbed, I'm actually pretty far away from this. Just go in. Once you have them webbed, they won't be able to move, and you can turn that micro warp drive off. Now our capacitor is draining fairly quick, so it isn't the most reliable build, or won't last that long. Potentially skilling more into cruiser engineering will help you out, along with electronic warfare. Not too bad. Get max shield again. We're doing some decent DPS. Not the best in the world, but it'll do. Alright, I'm going to go roaming. I probably won't find anybody. I'm not going to spend too long roaming, but we'll see. Alright, we're going in hot and heavy here. I don't think there's going to be a person here anymore. I actually warped in and then started my auto warp out. Okay, there we go. We got him. Let's get out at our orbit range. And let's just start popping them. We lost our webs on him, but we completely shredded him. Good fight, my friend. And let's just check our kill mail, see if there's anything juicy on there. 41 mil. There's a kill to say the least. These rats are doing some good damage on me, so I'll heal like I normally would. And let's go loot that up. Just shows the power of this thing. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed my kind of odd builds. Some of them I think are going to be pretty effective, just kind of depending how and when you use it. I was able to get 2 kill marks right at the middle of my ship there, just one for a caracal and one for a pod. Not the most reputable kill in the world, but I spent a good hour, maybe 2, just searching low sec for somebody to fight with. But yeah, feel free to comment below with how you have your Vigilant built. Most of the community reads through the comments, and they will find your comments useful. If I'm doing something wrong, be sure to comment below that I totally messed my Vigilant up as well. I think a couple of my builds are going to be particularly effective in some scenarios. But yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.